I missed the two and they just went up for 88 cents. And all of a sudden in one day we got like 15 orders. It was my very big aha moment. We were quilt shop number 3001 in America. The innovations that have been most meaningful to the tunes of millions and millions of dollars. One of my marketing moves was buying a town.
You've done everything from YouTube to daily deals, building a store, and eventually the Disneyland of quilting. So can you talk about the early days and your marketing strategy?
So I started a quilt company for my mom, and we were, quilt shop number 3001 in America. Everybody, when you retired as a 58-year-old woman, you'd go and start a quilt shop so you could get fabric for cheap. It wasn't because it was a great business. It was just like, it was there. And so all these communities had them. And there's a bunch. There's a big, great hobby that art form that people loved. So we started our quilt shop, and there's a big challenge. Just like, all right, how do you matter? And this was in 2008, right? And so like 2008, there wasn't a bunch of tools out there to get your voice heard. And so we tried everything from like Kijiji and Craigslist ads, and like, hey, does anybody want to buy some fabric? To commenting on blog posts. I mean, we launched a store and like 0 people came, and we were trying to solve that. The thing that worked great for us was YouTube in the beginning. And I've had YouTube spark for me twice. After I retired from the quilt shop stuff, I started another company called Let's Make Art, and we did a similar thing. But with the quilt company, we started recording these tutorials, these online tutorials of like how to use the product and stuff. We were using a little bit of a variant of normal fabric. We were doing pre-cut fabric. And so there's this opportunity to be like, I know Legos. Here, let me show you how to make these things out of Legos. And it was super sticky. It was great. People got really excited about it. I was pushing the limits of 2008 production quality with my Canon Digital Elf recording in 1080p.
Wow.
With a manual zoom where I was just moving the camera. But because we had this content that we were doing, people got real excited just to have high quality content in a space traditionally that's been very copyright focused. That's my idea. I invented the circle on a square. You can't show anybody how to do that. And we're like, no, we're showing everybody. Like, here's how I did this. Here's how I made this. And we're a little bit of a Robin Hood in the space. And it worked out great, to the point that our email newsletter had like 70% open rates, because we just send out, here's another great video that we made for you. Fast forward, I saw it again in art. I wanted, a friend of mine she was a watercolor painting artist person. I don't know what you'd call them. But I kept seeing her show her stuff on Instagram, and I was like, man, you're great at this. We should do a business together. And so she moved out, and we started a watercolor company called Let's Make Art that she's still running to this day. It's great. But the novelty I had, or the idea that I had, was when I'm looking for how to paint a lion on YouTube, it's all these hyper sped up time lapses in like 5 minutes. And so I was like, you know what I'll do? I'm going to do long form 1 hour long videos that are, here's how to do the whole thing. And then the following week, we'll live paint it together on a live stream on like Facebook Live or YouTube Live.
Yeah.
And that worked great. It's this odd, like sort of, you'd look at it and you're like, there's millions of videos showing how to paint a lion. Like, it's solved already. And what I kept seeing is, like, for me, so that I could follow along with it, it hadn't been solved. And so I went and made the thing that would solve it for me. And I could pick up a brush and I could watch this video. And at the end, it wasn't great, but like, it was a lion, and I'd get better with it as I went, and like, it worked. And so from a marketing standpoint, like, the innovations that have been most meaningful to the tunes of millions and millions of dollars are these YouTube, like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing. Quilting was the same way. My mom was up there teaching, and I'd say, hey, look, Ma, I'm a 30-year-old bearded man that's not an idiot. Like, I should be able to understand what the crap you're talking about. You're using words I don't know. Talk to me. And so the way that she'd make these videos is very like, okay, well, turn it like this and cut it like that and do this thing. Because she was talking to me to make sure I could understand. And because she wasn't using the internal jargon and all the stuff that would show every other quilter that she was very smart, she was talking to a layman that could figure this out. Anybody can turn on one of those videos. You listen to it, you go through all the stuff, and you've made a quilt. It's very accessible, and that solved the problem for me. And as I continue, like, all my marketing innovations are looking at problems and saying, like, this doesn't make sense for me. I can't follow this. And there's a lot of people that I think have my same brain. So let's try and figure that out.
So you talked about,
Wait, pause real quick. I'm getting some
yeah,
nuggets.
yeah, go do that.
All right, let's go. I'm back.
All right. So are Dino Nuggets underrated or overrated?
Dino overrated. The chicken breast nuggets from Costco underrated. Just a great spot.
Okay, I'll get back to. All right. So what I was saying is, you mentioned YouTube and doing it kind of at a pace that wasn't being done before.
Yeah.
Kind of, I guess, really understanding, your audience, and then with the click-through rate in the email, I feel like there's an overall story around trust and building trust. Do you feel
Yeah.
like that's something that you naturally did or intentionally did?
No, it's very intentional for me. So it's funny, the life of a company has many chapters. And in the beginning, I was adamant about like I hate spam. I do not want to send a lot of emails. I would send one email a week and it was all packed with content for you. And then at the bottom, I'd be like, also, you can buy some stuff. That worked great for a long time. And then we invented, or we didn't invent, we copied a lot of other people that had done a daily deal. And we did the Quilters Daily Deal. And I was, I was copying woot.com. I'd write a big funny story to go along with each one. And we'd do this whole thing. The other side of it was people started asking for like the daily deal in their email. I want an email every day. And it like broke my heart that they wanted daily email from me. And so we'd start sending daily emails. And then now we have a whole promo team that sends triggered emails and daily emails. And, like you're getting, I mean, if you're fully signed up, there's probably 12 emails a week that come to you from our company. And I'm like, it kills me, but, people respond to it and like, we're not expecting people to open every email. And you sort of have to be okay with it. But in the beginning for me, it was such a big deal to like, no, one a week, you can trust me. I'm not going to abuse this relationship. And it worked great. And I still, like, we're not abusing the relationship. My mantra now is every email has to have something in it for the customer. We can't just be asking for things. We have to give something in every email that goes out. And so we try really hard to build around that. But like that trust is very deliberate. And then the other companies that I've worked on that I've touched, it's a bit of a marketing shtick where it's just like, hey, let's just be trustworthy, good people and not spammy and focus solely on extracting value. And I think we get to have a real relationship with them. Like I was a big Gary Vee fan in the old days, back in the golden years of 2010. When he was a real whippersnapper doing stuff. And a lot of this sort of was born from like his conversations too. I feel like it was the same idea where it's just like, pick up the phone, talk to the people, like he'd put his phone number on a billboard sort of thing and just try and take all the calls and see if he could handle it. And like, that was kind of inspiring to me, this idea that like, instead of being a nameless, faceless brand, let's try and be right out there. And our customers, through the YouTube videos, the emails, I'll do the product updates. And when they come to town, they can come and find me and give me a hug. Like my mom's the famous one, but I still, there's a lot of people that know me and get my picture while they're in town. And it's great because like I'm kind of putting my face on the line and saying, no, I'm a real human. I'm talking to you. I'll explain the decisions we're making. I'm happy to dialogue through it, but like I'm willing to put my face out here as part of what we're doing, and I'm not going to hide behind a no reply address.
Yeah, I think that really helps with the trust. And I think you also picked a target that was underserved. And I think you gave a story like you had a friend who was selling metal toilet paper roll holders, and it wasn't sexy, but it was selling. And then you went after this market of like 40 to 70-year-old women who really like this thing, but no one was giving it maybe the love that it deserved.
Yeah, I feel like that happens often where you'll find these spots that, well, like in the arts and crafts space, there's a ton of them. If you want to go get into stained glass window making, there's still like Yahoo stores are big search results. And, there's stuff where it's just like nobody has thought about, great, what's a product innovation I could take to stained glass window making? Great, what's a commerce innovation? How am I going to sell this differently now that I've shaped a product differently? And now, how can I build a community around this? And that line of questioning, I think, exists anywhere you go. You could take it, I see you got a basketball poster behind you, but it's like, man, the NBA could totally...
Jordan.
Yeah, we could have the same conversation with them and say, great, what's an innovation we could have around the product that you're selling? Like, what do we change? And that's where, you got the guys trying to do like the big three league, and that, there's these other variations of that specifically, or youth basketball, I think, is innovating a bunch. Now, there's all kinds of moves that you could make if you wanted to reshape that product and then reshape how it's sold. Right now, the only way to interact with it is buy NBA League Pass or buy a ticket to a game or buy some merch. And it's like, could we come up with another way? Yeah, I think we probably could come up with a few ways to interact with that. Like, even big established brands, nobody sat down and said, all right, let's interrogate this a little bit and see if we can't be creative here. And you go into old ones, the crafting space is great. Gallery art would be another one I'd love to see somebody do something, or I use all the examples because I own it. One of my marketing moves was buying a town that really gave us good content and a good story to tell that everybody was interested in hearing. But I'm like, dude, there should be a town for beekeeping in Indiana and a town for cheese making up in Wisconsin, and a town like this should be everywhere. And as soon as you find that cheesemaker, you sit down and say, great, how do we innovate the product? Is it about making cheese? Is it about sampling cheese? Is it about our cheese? We can find something cool here anywhere you go. It's not unique to quilting, though quilting had a leg up in that there was no MBAs coming out of business school trying to jump on these margins when I got in here. Now there's quite a few, but at the time I was a lone man.
It sounds like it's really around community building, and I think community building, the natural instinct is like, what's the lowest effort way that I can do that online? And I feel like that's how even big companies think. Like, what's a 3-month campaign we can run so we can increase this by 5% instead of
AI just adds a layer to it.
But then you get like lazy answers. You're not thinking like, what's a long-term way to create like goodwill and branding and events, and how do we do this for the next 10, 20 years? People aren't usually thinking through that lens.
Well, it's funny. We've got a CEO in here now, and he and I have a conversation all the time because last year we bought yarn.com, which is a great domain.
Yeah.
Great company. Is Webs was the company. It's like a 50-year-old company out in Massachusetts. I bought up the town next to me, Kingston, but just the row of buildings, the commercial row of buildings. It's a 300-person town. There's nothing there. But I'm like, great, let's make this yarn town. We've got quilt town. Let's do a yarn town. I think that would be awesome. And in his comment is he's like, just so you know, this is not a money-making venture. This is charity. You are giving money where it's not going to get a return. And as long as you're okay with that, that's okay to do, but that's not where the business would choose to spend its money. I'm like, okay, I see that, and that's fine. It's making my community better. I'm improving this with some other stuff. But if I was strictly building value for the shareholders, I would not do this. And that's where I think it breaks for a lot of companies is like the long term, like that's value for the next shareholder, right? It's like, hey, if we do nothing, this problem isn't our problem. It's the next guy's problem, and screw that guy. It's that sort of mentality of like, our job is to create value. We're the shareholders today. If we can get more value, we got to do it today. And screw those next shareholders. Whoever's holding the bag down the road, like, I'm not building for them, I'm building for me. And it takes a certain founder and a certain bit of altruism to build on that long term, though eventually I make more money because I'm a better player down the road. Like, I'm here for 20 years. I'm here for 80 years. I will continue to extract value out of that. Like, it's selfish all the way around, but for most people, they couldn't find their way to that because it's not getting money today.
For sure. And I think a challenge is that a brand itself is hard to kind of quantify on the short term, what its value is and what it means. So, for example, I see someone like Bernard Arnault, who owns Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy.
Oh, yeah. I know
It's
Louis.
a family. Well, you know Louis. It's a family business. So what's really interesting is that he takes such a long-term approach. Like, he buys things very lavishly, spends a lot of money on like refitting, retail, having boats, like all these crazy things where a shareholder would be like, this doesn't make any sense. And he's like, yeah, but the brand will be more desirable in 20 years than it is today. And that's how I'm thinking.
Well, it's such a moat because nobody else is going to come in and do that, right? If you wanted to be a Louis Vuitton sort of icon, either you've got to be a billionaire that's just pissing money away, or if you're a startup coming up, you could never afford, like, you would be play acting the whole way through. You could never afford to
you
live
also can't you also can't buy heritage, right? Like, there's certain things that are kind of intangible. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to put an image on the screen and just give me your first take or the first thing that comes to mind when you see it? Tell me when you see it.
Yeah, the good old days, man. Where's this from? That's great. Okay, so we're looking at a news clip heading the Disneyland of quilting. Some of my very first videos of my mom, the grand opening of our main shop, the first version of my website that I built, and another news clip, and then my Crazy 8 charm pack for 88 cents. Sort of marketing mishap that birthed the Daily Deal.
Do you want to maybe explain that story?
Yeah. So the Daily Deal, I love the idea of a daily deal. And if you buy a product for $5 and you're going to put it on sale, and the cheapest I could put it is $5. And I'm like, I'm paying $5 for it. I'm getting $5 for it. I'm just working for free over here, but here it is. And like the idea of a loss leader, like I learned about that in marketing, but like, I could sell it for $4, but I don't know. It doesn't really have any more value for me. And what we ended up doing, I was trying to sell. I got a deal on these Crazy 8 charm packs. I think they were like $375, and I put them on sale for $288. But I missed the 2, and they just went up for 88 cents. And this was like probably a month and a half in, 2 months into our thing, and like we'd get an order a week maybe, and all of a sudden in one day we got like 15 orders. They just flew off the shelves, and we were like, holy crap, what happened? And we started looking at these orders, and the order, like a true loss leader, we gave it away for practically free. And like the average order value was up enough that like everything washed out, and it was great. We didn't lose money. We made money, and it ended up working. And it was my very big aha moment where now, we do all kinds of stuff where I try and give a big free thing away, once a year or so, where we're like, you're giving 30, 40, 50,000 things away at that point. It's such a huge amount of labor, but just these big, interesting days, which again, in our space, in a marketing speak, you're talking about, can I own the day? I just want all the conversation to be about me that day. Can I make us that interesting that we own the day, or that we win the day? And you do some of these big marketing things like this, and you can win the day, and it's super interesting. The challenge is, like, when you're running traditional retail, when you're just buying stuff and selling it, you don't have a lot of moves to make. And doing a lot of this, it sort of prompted us to like, all right, we got to figure out how we can get into some of the light manufacturing and stuff. We make our own templates, we make our own patterns. We need some stuff that we can do deep discounts on that don't hurt other brands' value. I can't discount everybody else. You got some minimum pricing and stuff you got to live by, but still make for fun, interesting marketing moments that we can use to grow the business. But that was like the very first one for us that said, you could be interesting. Watch this.
And that's one of those things where I was saying like better or worse than expected. It's like you fat fingered it and it went better than expected. So, and then you probably learned a lesson like, hey, I could do this again. Maybe not the same way, but by going so aggressive, it brought a lot of business.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny, man, is like we really did start copying a lot of the grocery store stuff. Like grocery stores will discount their, eggs will be 99 cents and they'll blow through a whole bunch, but they know you're walking out of there with a bunch of other things. You got some Cocoa Pebbles in there and some, some bread and whatever else. But, or they do the everyday low discount stuff. But what's funny is there's a couple great, grocery chains that run ththese like 777. You buy 7 of these and do 7 of this, and then you turn on your head 7 times, and you get 77 cents bag, and they'll build this whole big promotion around that. And it's funny because like some of our best promotions, I feel like, have been something around those lines where it's just like you sort of pick that grocery store vibe and make it a big, fun, exciting moment. And people follow along. They'll do what you tell them to if there's a reward at the end, and make it interesting and fun. We want people smiling as they're going through this stuff. And grocery stores actually do a great job with a lot of that.
Awesome. And is that the first machine that your mom has there in the middle, or?
Yeah,
that's
that Gamble quilting machine. That was actually what started the whole business for us. So the idea, Mom was taking her quilt in to get it quilted, and she normally what happens is there's some sweet lady in the neighborhood who has a quilt machine in her basement because they decided they want to spend 20 grand on a machine and have it down there. It's its own art form, right? Like it's a two-handed sewing machine that you just can move around and it just stitches wherever it goes. So you want to draw beautiful flower blooms and rose petals, and like you can do some really cool art with them. Well, so you would normally take your quilt to them. They would put the batting and the backing and stitch it all together, and it would take them like a week to do. It's not an easy thing. And so and that's great for like cool stuff, but normally my mom was making something for like a brother-in-law or a nephew, or here's she has 27 grandkids, and so it's like each one's not a masterpiece. It's a work of love for mom, but like we just need this one stitched up and gone. And so she would take them in, and they were backed up over a year. And so when mom buys this quilt machine, we bought it for mom with the intent being like, dude, if they're backed up a year, we just want them to be backed up 6 months, and then you be backed up 6 months, and we're all rich. We're doing great. You got a couple grand. You're going to help pay off the house. We're all geniuses. So we buy this other quilt machine, and it ended up birthing this whole other piece of business, which is our online machine quilting service, where you submit your order and mail it in. I mean, now we're like, I don't know how many, 30 machines. It's a whole department that just does this full time. But what's funny is we were kind of copying. Do you know the Kodak story, right? Where Kodak, when they were coming up with the mail-in film thing, this is just legend. But the idea was that they were looking at it and they were saying, all right, what's the creative moment? If you're into photography, you have the camera, you got the hood, you got the smoke screen, you do the click, you put it on tin, you take it to your dark room, you have all the chemicals, the whole thing. Like, you're into photography, you're into all of that. That's what it means to be a photographer. But there's this creative moment that people want to experience, which is looking through the lens and clicking, and then we're going to do everything we can to take everything else off you. So now it's a roll of film, you drop it in the mail, and it goes off and it gets done. You never have to think about it. You don't have the chemicals, the dark room, any of that. And the cameras are getting more of a form factor. You just click. I don't know if any of this is real. This is the lore of Kodak that I know. But for us, we were looking at the same thing, saying like, what's the creative moment in quilting? It's not waiting a year for your quilt to get done. It's not buying a $20,000 machine and stitching it all together. In fact, it's not the cutting. It's, as much of this stuff as we can trim out, where you're just sewing together a piece of art and then everything else gets done for you. That's where we want to put our focus, and that's what we try to do. And I think my instinct and the data that I choose to cherry pick says that I'm exactly right. Where, what if you make it and it sits on a shelf in your closet, you're not driven to go and make another one. But if you can make a thing, mail it off, it gets done and comes back right away, you can be on to the next one in your head, and we've just sold more fabric.
A lot of people like being an idea person, and they're happy to let someone else execute, and they still feel like it's theirs. Like it's their design. It's their creation, even if they're not experts at the other pieces of it.
Yeah, you're taking down you're not gatekeeping. Sorry, I know I might be talking with a little chicken nugget here and there. I apologize. I love these things. But this is so many of these hobbies have these built-in gatekeepers that that's what makes it valuable, right? I'm a quilter. It's hard to be a quilter because you have to learn. I'm a painter. Not everybody can paint. That's why I'm special and you're not. And as you take down those barriers to entry and sort of make it accessible, what you end up with is like a lot of people participating, and it doesn't diminish the value of these people that are great at it. I mean, the true artists in quilting are the true art. Like, it is a masterpiece. How do you do it? But the fact that a lot more people can sort of appreciate that, I think, is a net add to any sport, hobby, or interest. And so looking for those ones where it's traditionally very hard to get into and sort of letting people into it, I think is a huge value. It's funny, I started playing rugby last year as a 43-year-old man, which is the wrong time to pick up rugby. I play with this beer league down in Kansas City. It's like a Div 3, bunch of cool guys just get together and play after work sort of thing. It's awesome. But it's funny because as they've welcomed me into that community, now I'm a fan. Now I'm a consumer. Now I'm a participant. I'm never going to be as good as some of these guys. Like, honestly, I'm just a big oaf that can hit people hard. But like, I'm not fast, I'm not great, I'm none of that. But like, now that I've been allowed to enjoy some of this, I'm a great participant in the whole sport ecosystem. And I think of that a lot man, there's a lot of places that you would look at and say, oh, I'm not good enough to go there. I'm not good enough to play in that. Shoot, baseball games are that for some people of like, oh, that's where rich people go. A football game, like I didn't know a football game was only like $50 to go to. I grew up as a kid thinking football games were $1 million to go to. Yeah. That was something that just a whole other audience did. And either you wait until you're a grown man that can look up StubHub tickets on your own, or that sport can do something to be like, hey, why don't you come on in? We're accessible. We're addressable. Come be a part of it and be a fan here at the stadium. And like, it changes your...
So I want to talk about that. You mentioned like being accessible. So something you've talked about is like festivalizing your brand. Like you guys do things like birthday bashes and weekends, but that's not accessible to most people who don't own a town. So are there ways that you can festivalize your brand online or without a large budget?
Without a large budget, yes. Online, so when we'll do a big event here, we'll get thousands and thousands of quilters will come to our town. And what we try and do is we try and extend that to the online, right? We're just extending the reach of that so that people can experience it even if they're not here. It's certainly not the same. It's not nearly as interesting for them, but like, I don't know, when you were a kid, there was like a promo for Disney on a VHS tape that was floating around. I feel like my co-founder in this, he talks all the time where they like wore out this videotape watching it and never got to go to Disney as kids, or maybe they did once. But like the idea of Disney was as interesting to them as anything because they knew they couldn't go. They couldn't afford to go, and dad wasn't going to take a vacation and take them on this. But knowing it was there and the excitement around it made them big fans of all the videos or the films that would come out around it because it was just still exciting and they knew about it. Now, if you're Disney, you can either try and take that experience to Toronto and put a Disney experience up there, or you just keep making great stuff and storytelling about those experiences wherever you can. And for me, I prefer the latter. I think for us, if I'm a brand, let's say I'm selling, I don't know, airsoft miniguns or something, right? Yeah. And either I could worry about now it's the big online festival, which just feels like a marketing hack, or every year we're going to have the big tournament and everybody comes in and we rent the arena, we do the whole thing and we'll film a bunch of it and we'll make content about it and sell the merch and stuff. But really just we're real people doing a real thing, and that's more interesting than anything we can do online only.
If you're like a small SaaS company or something like that, you don't have a physical presence, is it best to just ignore that whole festivalizing your brand until you're at a scale where you can invest in more physical things? Or do you think trade shows and pop-up events and things like that could have value?
One of the things that we offer here in our town is we have a whole bunch of storefronts, and we'll let folks come and do a little sort of pop-up shop event here, right? In fact, we encourage them to, and when they do that, again, so it's not festivalizing it, but the content is happening because you're doing a physical thing. I think even if I'm I don't know, I'm an ESP or something. I'm just some SaaS company, right? Selling something. I think there's still, as soon as you can do something in real life that connects to your brand and lets you storytell off it, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be a big whole to do. But I certainly think you could do a thing that's more than just a conference. One of these buddies of mine, Sean Purry, he does a big basketball weekend every year. He's nice. I love I hate conferences, but I love the idea of getting together with buddies. So instead of going to a conference, we're just going to get together and play basketball. It's my favorite thing, man. It's my favorite thing. We just get together and hang out and play, and it's great. But it's like if I'm an email service provider doing something interesting like that, or maybe you go rent Dude, you can rent a summer camp, like an in the mountain summer camp for surprisingly cheap. And their off weeks, it's surprisingly cheap. And you just say, hey, come gather here. We're going to go swim. In fact, you can all have to buy a ticket. I'm not going to be out any money for this. I'm just going to organize this and gather all the people together. And then we're putting the blob out in the water, and we're just going to go play and have a great time for 4 days. And
Yeah.
we'll try and help you solve some problems in your email if you want. But like, this is what we're doing a thing. It's not festivalizing, but it's like,
No, I feel like the challenge is like, the companies don't really understand the essence of their people and why they use the product outside of the features and benefits sometimes. So like, if you're some security SaaS company, you're like, we're going to have security weekend, and that's lame and no one wants to go to it, right? Like you have to kind of go deeper and be like, what connects these people in general? And maybe we're not going to connect everyone, but they can build relationships and have a good association with our brand and it not feel gimmicky. And I feel that's the challenge, is it always feels gimmicky. Even a lot of YouTube channels I see companies starting or podcasts, like they just feel so
they're
bland.
doing it because this is the thing. Yeah.
Right? It's conversion metric. And I know you care about things like conversion, but it doesn't feel that way. Like there's something.
Well, this is what we were talking about before.
missing,
Louis Vuitton cares about conversion, but they have to pretend that they don't. They like you have to live as though you don't care and it benefits you. Like invest in that long-term stuff because I'm altruistic. Well, actually, no, I'm just like, I'm investing in it because it's going to pay dividends down the road. And I see that, but everybody else doesn't see it. The security company, like any of these, man, we can sit down and solve because like, if you're a security company and you do security week, it's so stupid. If you do escape room blast for all your customers and like,
Escape from Alcatraz.
Escape from we're going to sponsor the triathlon to like get you out of Alcatraz or whatever it is. Like you do something like that, and it's still gimmicky. Like you're still doing it because you just want to win the day and be in people's minds, and like when they think of security, they're thinking.
I love that though. Win the day. By the way, that sticks. Win the day.
Yeah, It should be right at the top of like, why are we doing this? And if we're going to do it, let's do it big enough that like we own all the conversation around this. But you could little paintball mini wars or something. There's a bunch of stuff you could do, and maybe all your customers don't love it, but they'll love the story of it. And as long as a few are interested enough to come out and have a good time with you, and you guys are brothers by the end, what a great investment of time and energy, and least of which is the money. The money is always, you can charge a ticket, you can do something else.
How much do you think your personality plays into it? Because you come across as being very easygoing and enthusiastic, and seems like you can connect and build relationships with others. My guess is if you're like an introverted CEO, like you need a different playbook.
Yeah. I honestly, enthusiasm and optimism are probably my secret weapons, right? Like if I can come in and be excited about a thing and get you excited about it, like we're gonna have a great time no matter what.
You got me excited about chicken nuggets, and I'm the person who, with my friends, we're debating the best chicken sandwiches all the time, and we're having battles around Popeyes versus Chick-fil-A and stuff. So
yeah.
I respect it.
Yeah, it's real. But like that's certainly a weapon, and we all know the founders that are like sort of the introvert. Being in front of people is so exhausting. Honestly, man, I'm like, I don't know that I wouldn't know what to do with that. There's part of me that says maybe you shouldn't be the CEO, or maybe if you need to be the CEO, if you need to be the CEO, have a great head of marketing that is this. Like it's funny. So our town, we're trying to hire somebody because like we wanted the town to be fun. No matter when you came to town, we've got 16 shops, we got restaurants, we got a hotel thing going, we got all this stuff happening. And you'd come to town, and each one was sort of in its own sphere. You didn't really understand that it was all connected and that there was a fun thing going on. And so I started like writing up the job description, and what I ended up calling it was like cruise line director for our town. If you've ever been on a cruise, it's that person's like, all right, today we've got this over here and that over there. And they're walking around town.
Party in the pool. You're like, yeah.
And they're high-fiving. They come be the MC at the thing. And like, this is their whole personality and shtick. And that's not the president of Royal Caribbean. That's a cruise director. And I think as long as you've got somebody that is playing that role, that's the visible face and sort of promoting this moment, it works. You know, what's funny because like you remember HQ Trivia when that whole craze happened. That was the app where like once a day it would give you a push notification. There'd be like a trivia game happening. You remember this?
I don't, but you
It
can go
was
ahead.
it was so cool, man. It was based out of New York. This guy Scott was the host, and and like they would do these trivia games. It got big. It was like they had it happen at halftime on a football game. Like they had all these partnerships coming through, and then Scott, like I think there was some sort of conflict or something happened, and Scott got the boot, and he was no longer their guy. But when he left, it like all broke because they just tried to put pretty faces in front of people instead of like the infectious, enthusiastic Scott, which was what we were all sort of showing up for and getting excited about and doing a thing with. The trivia was just sort of a reason to be there, but Scott was the secret sauce in that. Like I think about that a lot where like picking your personality for your YouTube channel or for or for your ad campaign or your social media person, all that there's a little bit of an art to it. You need to make sure that there's somebody that people want to be around, that there's somebody that people want to go and spend time with. Like that is most of the draw. In fact, my mom, who's a great YouTube personality and people love her, but the comment she gets a lot is like, I just put you on while I was like making dinner. I just got to hang with Jenny. It's like we nailed it. We nailed it because that's what we're looking for. We just want you to want to be around them. And then everything else sort of works out. And if you're a brand or something, if you can find that person in your company that represents that, it works. It's funny. I was doing Shopify reviews platform, Okendo. They do like reviews for Shopify. They had a customer advisory board thing. We all go out and hang out with their guys. They have one guy on their team, Joe. And Joe is fantastic. And I kind of don't care about anybody else on that team.
You're there for
but
Joe.
But I love Joe. And Joe led he took us on a tour in Mexico City and we went and played some games. We did a whole thing. And Joe just made sure everybody was having a great time and like ran that thing. And it's funny, when I go to talk to that company now, no matter who I'm talking to, in my mind, I'm just talking to Joe. And that's what I'm trying to do. And for those guys, like if they appreciated the value they had in that, they would start building the whole event around him. But like a lot of them, they just don't. They see that as like, oh, we hired this guy, and he's great. All right, whatever. But like if you can't notice that you have that talent, it's hard to magnify it, I think.
Yeah, I think another talent you have, it actually makes me think of YouTube, right? So YouTube in 2025 is different than YouTube in 2008. YouTube in 2025, you have to think like, what's the title? What's the story? What's the thumbnail? What's going to drive that, right? And I feel like you do that really well with towns. You're like, if I build a town around this, I'm going to get media. I'm going to get all these different pieces and different leverages. It almost is that kind of reverse engineer YouTube style where you kind of start with the like, is this clickable type of mentality.
Well, it's funny. It's funny where my head goes when you say that is that at this point I think there's a lot of people that are playing the algorithm, right? And they start a YouTube channel and they say, "Great, I need a good thumbnail, I need a good title, I need a good this, I need a good that." If you've ever hung out with like Jimmy Donaldson, the Mr. Beast, Jimmy,
Your boy Jimmy, of course.
my boy Jimmy, what Jimmy's got taste, right? Like he is making this stuff because he thinks people love it and they'll click it, not because he knows the algorithm is going to reward it. And like you look at his early videos to today, they've changed dramatically, but they've changed. I think the YouTube algorithm has sort of changed in response to him rather than him adjusting to the algorithm. And I think when you think about like the people that are running these sort of or these big personalities around brands and stuff, I think it has to be something similar. Me with towns, if I was building towns because I thought that people were going, great, when you open up the Wall Street Journal and you read about this, you need to see this building and that one and that one. And then, if I tried to reverse engineer it from there, I think it all breaks. But because I have an instinct to me and an interest in this thing that like is sort of counterintuitive to a lot of people, but ends up being really, really cool. Like town building is such a novel way of marketing your business. But like I've got an intuition around it that I love. I think it works. If you tried to go and buy a town and do all the right things, I don't know that it works the same.
No,
if you don't have that taste.
So I'm gonna give you what's gonna be your favorite question ever.
Okay, marmalade.
I know you have a love for. All right, so I know you have a love for Overwatch. I even saw you crushing a box of Lucio's. So you've been gaming for decades, and you mentioned that the idea of getting fragged by Bill Nye was hilarious, and that's why it was username. So you have a large budget. You can pick 30 million dollars, and you're in charge of developing a town. It can either be an Overwatch town, a Blizzard world, or something for first person shooters. And you have
Yeah.
taste for it. Maybe talk through like what comes to mind. What would you do to nail that?
Oh, man, let's do Overwatch World, right? Let's go buy a town and give yourself 10, 15 buildings, and they're just storefronts. You're just going to create this cool storefront. First, you absolutely well, and Blizzard actually does a pretty good job of this, where like they do their events, they do a Christmas event. But also, guys, we should all be grown-ups and not play video games anymore. But I do, and so because I do, we're gonna pretend like we live in this world. But go give me the Overwatch themed restaurant, because they have all these sort of nods to little cafes and things set up. It'd be easy to grab one of those and turn it into a real thing that you grab. And then you'd have like each map, I think, would be either an interesting store, right, where you have a map as a store, or you could sort of do character groupings as stores, something like that. But when I went to town, the things that I think would be interesting to do, one would be like, there's a character where she flies a mech, and you can sort of get in a mech and move around a little bit and shaped like Diva or something, or put on a Reinhardt suit of armor with a big hammer and walk around in it, or it's really what you're doing with these is you're one if I'm an Overwatch town, it's Instagrammable moments. I'm going to go there with my boyfriend or girlfriend, and we're going to spend a day, and we're going to, because they love it, now I'm connected in. What they've done with this is they've now reduced the barrier of entry, where you don't have to be a good gamer to get in. You can just be a fan because you're in my wife's case, my husband is a fan. And so I'm now going to go and play. We're going to pretend Overwatch for a day. And look, I'm supporting him. And I know he loves it. His best birthday gift I ever gave him. And we're going to find a bunch of spots where we get to dress up in the garb, or do it, or maybe like you dress up in the garb and go eat lunch. Or, you can rent a suit for a day. I don't know what you do with that. But then the general merch, it's funny, man, because I've been playing this for probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, and I'm not great, but it's a great excuse to hang out with my buddies and play a game and stuff. But there's no interesting merch around this. And whoever's running merch for Blizzard, if they said, all right, I got to fill a store with Junkrat crap, or just stuff about this dumb character that is an afterthought, but he's like my main and I play him every day. Well, now, there's the shirt, there's the hat, there's the whatever, the little light nods to him that only guys that play are going to understand what that is. You do a bunch of that stuff, and I don't know, you maybe need 15 stores. And even cooler than that, dude, give me the arena, recreate one of the maps as a real arena, and let us play paintball in there, or airsoft, or something in there.
Laser tag or something, and then you have...
And what a freak of... Every bachelor party in America would think about, maybe we should go to that Overwatch town and do that.
That'd be cool.
Or maybe 3 maps, dude, and you're just you just got to run through them. They turn off the lights, and because you played these thousands of times, all the little Easter eggs, and you're just
the map, right?
It's great. Yeah, when you can probably do it, put on the VR headset and just go and experience this in a big open room or something. You could do versions of this that are even cheaper, but man, that'd be fun, and that's worth CBS Sunday Morning coming and being what the crap are you guys doing with this town outside of Yucca, Arizona? What is this? And the stories get told about it. The townspeople are we don't know who all these crazy people wearing these suits are, but they're here. That's fun.
Yeah, and then there could also be escape room. If you know the map, let's see how quick you can get from place to place.
Things that are nods to people that have dedicated their life to this and stuff. And then when you do the big E-Stadium Arena stuff, right, when you have the Overwatch League and stuff that happens, you should do it there. And just make people gather there. That's the spot. And then that's where it broadcasts out and does the whole thing. Stuff like that is so easy, though, man, because the IP catalog is so rich. It's so rich that you could just go for days. If you're doing something like cheese making or I always thought baking would be a great one. And baking, if you're into baking and you're 9 years old and you got to go somewhere, what does that town look like?
I agree.
There's not an immense amount of IP. It's you make stuff. And so you're either building it around the themes, the cast iron cooking, maybe the KitchenAid stuff, the crock pot store, like you could do it like that. But there's variations you can do with an IP catalog. It gets super easy and really fun. And you have all the characters and all the stuff just waiting to be birthed.
You could even get like custom T-shirts made or custom weapons that you can take home. Like,
Oh
there's so
yeah,
much
dude.
stuff you can do, right?
Or even more interesting is like if you've been there, you can get a skin that nobody else can get. Stuff like that, I think, all of a sudden makes the game, lets you brag in the game.
Bridging it into the online world.
Well, you go home with a thing now, and it's worth going there just because I want to go and get that thing. There's one more skin that I haven't got, or one more weapon that I've never been able to play with.
I want that to show that I'm.
Well, we do that in Quilt Town. We have these little charms that you'll come to town, you get a bracelet, and you can go and you can get a charm from each of the shops. We don't sell them online. You can't get them anywhere else. And it's just if you know, you know. And if you know, you know. And I got the whole thing. And I came here. I had to spend an extra 2 days going to each shop and buying a thing so I could get each, all the little things or whatever. But like, I did it, and now I got this that only the people that go there and do this thing get.
And you know what? I feel like there's such deep niches everywhere that there is like if you know, you know. Like I collect basketball cards, and I have certain cards that if I show it to like a old school vendor of 40 years, he'll give me the nod. He'll be like, "You have taste. You know what's up." And I'm like,
nice.
And then
work,
I give him
man.
the nod, and I go just for that respect, nothing else.
Dude, that's exactly right. And you'll stand in line, just like subtly drop this card out. Oh, what's this doing in my stack? And he says, legit.
This 1992 random Michael Jordan insert.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Nice work. And you're like, yeah, I know.
Yeah. No,
You're exactly right. Like you're looking. It's funny because the community piece is the interesting part of this, right? Is like when I say this all the time, but Comic-Con is great, but when Comic-Con folks go home, they're just weirdos. And so we all want to gather to Comic-Con where we're accepted amongst our own tribe and we're validated and they say, you did a great job with that furry tail. And that where nowhere else is anybody going to compliment you on that or appreciate the effort that went into it or understand even the drive and motivation you had behind it. You collect basketball cards and it's like at home, you're a weirdo. You're just a weirdo that wastes his money and you're a dumb idiot. You go to the convention and you're amongst peers and all these people value this stuff the same way. And they say, oh, that's amazing. You're awesome. Way to go. And it's like, dude, we're all seeking that validation or that sort of nod of approval or acceptance. Like, go find a way to love and accept people that aren't being loved and accepted enough, and you will make a fortune doing that.
Yeah. And I think the challenge is everyone's looking for like this optimized blueprint. But when you do that, it gets rid of the art and the taste.
Yeah.
And this stuff needs the art and the taste. Like that's the secret sauce, unfortunately, is like you got to feel for those people and you got to kind of see those things and be like, they would appreciate that. And it's not the mathematical formula.
Did you know Elon Lee, one of the guys that did Exploding Kittens?
Yeah.
Right? His story
game, yeah.
when they made that game, they started going to these conventions. He has such a cool story around this because they'd go to there and it was a vending machine for anything. I forget what they called it. It was something like that. And you'd stand in line and go up to the front and you'd put in $1 or something and he'd give you a pineapple. You put in $1 and he'd hand you like an Xbox controller. And you put in $1. Like it was just this like novelty of like the bizarreness of a vending machine that would give you anything. And they're in the back making stuff to hand out that it's all very unique. And it was they started ruining these conventions. The convention organizers would be like, dude, you're booth 5,880 and a line is all the way out the freaking door and like nobody's going to any of these other ones because they all just want to go to yours. Like, stop it. And they're like, sorry, man, we're just the most interesting people that you've seen here because we are really like, we're just playing with this idea and rewarding people that want, want sort of the novelty of it. It's that taste, that like vision of how do we make this fun? How do I make this interesting? Like, let me pause and just think about it for a minute. We can do something that no one's expecting, but they all will really appreciate. And then you crush it.
Yeah, I went to a fitness trade show once, and this one booth won the day, clearly. And what they were doing is they had like influencers there, and you could like have a deadlift competition and stuff against them. Right? So it's like, he did 30, can you beat it? And they had a whiteboard, and they had music going, and other people were like, it's because they have a good location. It was like, no, they're like part of the culture. They have the taste for it. They knew.
Dude, You've been to a fitness convention and like there could be 1,000 rows and they're all the exact same. You know
They are.
exactly what you're going to see. There's nothing interesting. Then you get, and like the people that are trying are like, well, we're going to do scratch off business. Like they have some gimmick.
Spinny wheel. Great.
And it's like, no, it's dumb. But like somebody that can go and have some bit of novelty, some bit of like, all right, dude, how do we win the day? Like I want everybody walking out of here talking about our booth rather than me being a creatine supplement, being like, hey, most studied supplement in the world.
And there's just a part of like, don't be scared to be cringe. And if it doesn't work out, just go for it. Like what's going to happen? You're going to get embarrassed and people didn't show up at your booth or your event has 2 people. Like it is what it is. But you have to go for it. Because if you go for it kind of half-assed, it's probably not going to work out.
Nope. Yeah. You have to fully step into it. Yeah. Well, and it's so hard. It's the hardest truth of even online like audience building. I keep meaning to, dude, I've got like 20 videos of me on my phone being like, hey guys, it's Al. Dang it. No. Hey, you have to be cringe. Like there's a reason that stuff works, right? And people are cringe on Twitter and stuff because there's a reward on the other side. But like I have such a, any self-respecting man is not going to talk to his phone and do this thing. Like we have these sort of biases that we build up that say, and really they're there to protect us, right? They're there so that we don't have to try because the guys that try are the dumb ones. It's I'm cool, you're dumb back in grade school that we would do so that we didn't have to, like actually go and play basketball or whatever it was. And I think that's so true in any business, man. Like dude, I was teaching I got little boys, 7, 5, 5, and then a 2-year-old girl. Like it's so much fun, dude. Being a dad, guys. If you're not a dad, go be a dad. It's the best.
Go for it.
We went to a wedding the other night, like 2 or 3 days ago. And I'm having this moment with my kids where I was like, listen. You can dance the way you think other people want you to dance. And you'll be just like everybody else. And nobody's going to want to dance with you. And it's not super fun. If you can go ham, I want arms flailing, feet kicking, jumping up and down, whatever you can do. People will look at you and they might think that guy's weird. But guess what? You're where the party is. And all the dancing happens around you. And I remember I was like in my mid-20s and there's this guy that I was buddies with that was like super fat. He was just a big dude, way overweight and like super, super embarrassed about his weight and like very nervous about stuff. And he was shy about a lot of things and like that was sort of his personality. But I remember we went to some dance and this dude just cut loose. And like, dude, he's like jumping and moving and like all around. And I looked at him and I said, I wish I had that confidence, dude. Where's this guy? Like he's on the dance floor and he owns this place and everybody's having fun because he's having fun. I got to match that energy. And like really, really like challenged me to sort of, can I get out of my little shimmy here and like really go and try and have fun? And it was going to be way more fun. And it was way more fun. And like, dude, if you can just fully step into that persona, have a great time. I think that might be the catch. It's like, you need to genuinely enjoy what you're doing. Have a great time doing it. Be exhausted at the end. It's hard to be on all the time. Like, I get that. But like, dude, if you can like be sincere in your enjoyment, authentically enthusiastic about what you're doing, you'll kill it. Everybody wants to be around that.
Yeah. I think everyone wants to be around that. And if you're not that person, you should look to hire that person, even if they don't check every optimized data metric. If that's how your brain works, you need to actually hire someone for personality.
You know what's so funny is like there's a lot of those people with personality, and where I'm always like, dude, I wish you could be like in corporate training or something. I don't know where you fit in a corporation, but the only place that like you're allowed to have some personality is maybe corporate training. But like I wish there was a spot for like, no, you go.
I have a friend who his job is pretty much like golfing with clients, and he's awesome at marketing, and he like drives race cars with clients, and everyone loves him. I'm like, you're perfect for that role. Like,
dude, everyone like, how do you get recruited for that or find that role? It's tough, but like that guy in the company is super valuable.
Useful. Yeah. Everyone knows every restaurant. Everyone asks him like, what restaurant to go to in San Francisco. He's like, I have 3 here. I have 3 for Austin. Like he just He just has it. You know what I mean?
He's got the stuff, and then he's also the guy that like he'll pull people around. And if you go to have an event, and you're some dumb security company. He's the person. That's the reason that event's going to be successful because he's the one walking around high fiving everybody. And hey, here's what we got going on. Yeah, no, those people matter and they need to exist in there. I don't know. There's not a good track for like, oh, he's a junior analyst, and then he became the great personality lead in the company. I don't know how they do that, but we need
It
that.
just kind of happens, I think. All right. So I think we kind of mentioned this, but I think one of your top skills is storytelling. So this is I always ask a Mount Rushmore question. I think this is interesting because I think you've actually been to Mount Rushmore. So what is your Mount Rushmore for people you think are underrated at storytelling?
For people that are underrated at storytelling. I don't know. I can tell you some people that I think are great at storytelling.
That's good enough.
So I've been fortunate enough to hang out with the My First Million guys, Sam and Sean, and those guys. They're one that they have plenty of audience in a very specific niche, and outside of that, nobody has any idea they exist.
I watch their channel, so I'm in the niche.
Like Sean does this thing right now where it's like 1 minute blog posts, and I just think is brilliant. And then Sam is just like, dude, dude's posting videos of like him being a dad, and I'm like, I love it. Like you're making real good content about this stuff. I think those guys are great at it. The other storytelling that I really respect and admire, Gary V. I haven't watched a Gary V. video in 7 or 8 years, but anytime that guy happens upon my feed, I still just admire so much his ability to create. Like he created his own brand out of like not a very big wine company from his dad. Like when you look at like revenue and stuff, you're like, oh, dude, yeah. I mean, good for you, but like he's. I don't even know if he's an empire now, but like he's certainly gone and done great stuff. But it was all around just like a creative take on a thing. See, Chris Dixon, I think is very good at that kind of stuff. He's a VC, but like. Again, when he puts something out when he talks about a space, I feel like he's got such a unique angle on it that I stop and I read it and I think about it and pay attention to. It's interesting, man. There's different folks for different stuff too. Like Chris Kerner, he's got a big TikTok following, but he's like dumb business ideas that
Follow him
that
too.
anybody.
Yeah, he's good.
He's a buddy. He's a buddy. But what I think is interesting about his stuff is like I was actually hanging out with him when he's like interviewing. Oh, this guy doing a pizza. Hold on, pull over. Let me go talk to them. And I'm like,
You were on his channel, right? I think I saw a video.
I did like a terrible audio on his channel. He made me get a new microphone after that. but what was interesting though is I'm like, these are all just to me they're just dumb businesses. But like in his hands, he's like these are all opportunities. And look at this. And here's the angle. Which again. Any of these guys, man, their enthusiasm for the random niche is the most interesting, exciting piece of what they're doing. I want to think about like in some non-business areas. I spend a lot of my stuff is like business buddies and stuff, but like in those non-business areas, go to crafting or beekeeping or stuff like that. Dude, the great storytellers, they just make you want to do it. They make you think that you can jump in with them and go along with it. But I don't know. I don't know what that Mount Rushmore looked pretty. I'd like to be a little more interesting. I'll have to think about that.
Oh, it's good. It was funny. Chris had this video on like creating a tree stumping business, and I
Yeah.
watched it, and I was like, I could have a tree stumping business. And then in my mind, I'm like, what? You're a software guy. What are you doing?
Stop it.
You're never
I
going to
can-
do that. But the storytelling was good. It was like for $0, you could make.
Dude, there's a guy
$32 a month.
who's
That's not
following.
right?
There's a guy who's following on Twitter that like bought a garbage truck and started doing garbage. He's like, I made $120,000 this year, and I have 700 clients, and I'm doing this thing. Like I was Googling how much is a garbage truck. I was like
course.
halfway down the road of like maybe, and I could make another $30,000. Okay, I should do this.
We invest in asteroid mining companies,
But
and
also-
we should get into garbage.
Yeah. I'm gonna drive the truck, and I'm just gonna do it. Yeah. No. Well, it's funny I'm a cattle farmer now. I have a couple of cows on my house, and I'm trying to get more and more into this. But the guy in this world, there's this dude, Greg Judy, who there's a regenerative farming movement happening. You have Joel Salatin and the White Oaks pasture guy, and then there's Greg Judy, who's just this old dude with glasses that are probably 3 times too big for his face, and he shows up, and they're like terrible YouTube videos, like 10 minutes long of him just standing in the field with the camera pointed at grass, just talking about what he's doing. The guy has a following and he's great at it. And like, he's so good. He's got all these little sayings. You want to get him on a t-shirt sort of thing. But like, he inspired me enough that I went and bought my own cows and put them on my land. And I'm moving them around every couple of days because I'm now a regenerative farmer. But like, he is this master storyteller of this stuff. And again, it's like, dude, you find this guy on TikTok or something, you're going to accidentally buy a cow on the other side of it because he's that good. But like, he's just passionate about his thing. He does his one thing and he wants everybody to experience the joy of it. And you cannot say no, man. He's magic at that stuff.
Love that.
They're good, dude. I love finding storytelling is such a fun one because you're just looking everywhere for it. And when you find a good storyteller,
every niche has one. Every niche has someone, and that person is super enthusiastic and cares and is able to tell the story because A, they're a good storyteller, and B, they're just deeply ingrained in that niche enough that they can kind of connect everything together.
But have you ever met one of those guys and you're like, man, you should have a way bigger business? You're so, like, I feel like if you go to a Renaissance festival or a fair or something, there's some dude making knives and selling them out of his thing, and you're like, bro, how are you just at a fair right now? You're a magician. You should have the biggest knife company in the world, dude. What are you doing? But like it's the storytelling plus audience building plus merchandise, like all that stuff has to kind of come together.
There needs to be strategy involved too, if you want to make it, it can't just be in a empty corner perfecting your craft.
Well, actually, dude, I look at this as a big opportunity for me. Like, one of the spaces I think is interesting. There's YouTubers that have like millions of followers making dioramas or making stained glass and then you go to their store and they sell a t-shirt or something, like they just don't know they have no interest in running a business. No desire. And I look at them and I say, man, if I can go and give you a big enough cut of something so that you're making money, and I leverage you into the merchandising and the community, like I'll do all the other stuff. You just keep making content. We'll make a fortune together. I love that world. I want so badly to have the product where I can go and sit down with you and say, all right, let's come up with some product. Let's come up with some events. Let's come up with all the other things. And then you don't have to do anything. My team will handle it all. And we'll go build a giant company around you. The risk is just so great, man. I don't know how Guy Fieri and Food Network relationship works, but the fact that he's still there after 30 years is amazing. Because anybody else, you get working so much and eventually you just say, I don't want to do this anymore. Or I feel like I'm going to ship all the books now and I'm going to make a bigger cut. You get like all that relationship gets muddied as you get into it too far. But if there was a way to do it where people were so excited to just keep making their stuff and they got more and more money out of it, that's the next business I'll build.
Yeah, and it's not a grift. It's a real win for the audience.
It has to be.
Getting value, right? Because I think that's what happens is people have an audience. They love this thing and they don't want to, they feel like everything they could sell is a grift and they don't want to go down that pathway because they see the people who have gone down that pathway, their relationship with their audience. I saw that in the fitness world too. You know what I mean? Like
coming out of CDW, man, this sales thing of like, as soon as you're helping somebody solve a problem, you're the opposite of a salesman. You know what I mean? Like if you're just curious, people watching this guy making a diorama, they want to make it too, and just help him out. Like you're not asking for any money. That was actually some of the things that in the beginning for us was so great. It was like we were just making content. We didn't realize people would want to buy the exact thing that we're showing them how to make. That came later. But in the beginning, we're just making cool content. And then people would say, please let me have that thing. And then we were doing them a favor. We were facilitating their ability to make this thing that we were teaching them how to make. And honestly, our audience, our customers have just rewarded us for that over and over again because they're glad. They're glad that we've made it easy and helped them out. It works. Cool.
All right. I'm going to end today with some deep cuts here. I'm going to put some images on the screen and tell me the bigger story. You can thank Eric for this.
What is this podcast? This is great.
I got the deep cuts here. All right, picture one.
Yeah. So this is my birthday.
You look majestic, so I had to throw that in there.
My birthday, I was in Tibet. So one of my good friends who runs Reboot.io, it's Jerry Colonna. He's the CEO whisperer. But me and my wife got married, and And we wanted to go on a big adventure. And he was like, hey, I'm heading over there. You guys should come. And so we hopped on a plane and flew to Chengdu and had the spiciest hot pot I've ever imagined. It was wild. And we went on this great sort of Tibetan tour for a couple of weeks with a bunch of, like they were all on this like Buddhist sort of journey. They're going. There's a prophet they were going to meet in there. Like, so we got to experience sort of their religion one step adjacent to it. Because, it's not my religion, but like, man, it was a blast watching how these guys worship and move. And so we were up in the mountains of this thing, and they knew it was my birthday. So this is our whole crew, and they paused and like pulled out all the traditional garb, and this is up at the top of some mountain pass, and dressed me up and sang us a song. So that was my birthday. I think it was 35 that year. It looks good now. It looks real good.
It's a vibe. All right, next one here.
Another classic. Another great classic. This
is actually I think it's your first YouTube video, so it's not quilting related.
Is that public or is that unlisted? I'll be darned. Okay, so this is me and my buddy Lauren. We were in Ukraine for a study abroad, and over there studying the Orange Revolution, which was the largest peaceful revolution in the history of the world, circa 2004. I think this is like 2006. We're over there hanging out and then staying with my host family, and I was explaining to them the English term interpretive dance. And so we had another buddy on the guitar start strumming away, and we wrote and danced a song for this great family in Ukraine that just got the performance of a lifetime. If you've never had the opportunity to watch it, it is a gift.
All right, last one.
Here we are in mid-tree form.
Mid-tree form.
Oh,
Do you know what this is?
Oh, this is my mango tip. Yes.
Is it life-changing?
It is life-changing. If you... Why do we not eat mangoes? Well, I'll tell you. Because you kind of over there in pain, you're not getting hardly any meat out of them. Well, with this one easy hack, slice the sides, you put it down a drinking glass. All the meat pops right out. You get a perfect separation from the peel. And it's like some real good mango out of there. I went to school in Hawaii. And so I was around mangoes often. Nobody had this hack there. Nobody was teaching how to do this. You're still just slicing and chipping away at this stuff. And now I am 100% slide that mango down.
Where did you learn this hack, or was it self-taught?
No, this was, it was, somebody was showing like with an avocado or something. And I was like, I bet I could do this with, I bet I could make this work with a mango. And I threw it down and, the form is not unique to me, but the mango, this was an eye-opening.
You should build a mango.
These are such good random shots.
Awesome, Al.
What a blast, dude. That's the best.
That's the best, right? Yeah. I found the mango one specifically, and I was like, oh, that's gold.
What's he doing here? I made my wife record it. She's like, what am I doing? I was like, the people need to know. I will tell them.
Enthusiasm. I felt the enthusiasm with the mangoes. Like, you got something big here.
Well, thank you.
Al, thanks for your time today. Where can everyone find you?
Come follow us on Twitter, Dr. Bill Nye over there, or Instagram, Dr. Bill Nye. I invest with some buddies over at rolling.fun, F-U-N, and if you're under-indexed in the future, come hang out with us. And then most of what I write about is like stories and stuff about local towns and small communities and things. That's what I'm noodling.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, man.
We're still going. Yeah, it says trying to connect, but I think I'm back.